apocalypse, more like my house, my rules. The world had descended into chaos. It felt like the end was nigh, with cities burning and buildings collapsing into ashes. The streets were empty, save for a few desperate souls trying to survive. On a flickering TV screen, the news anchor's frantic voice echoed through the quiet apartment. "Breaking news," the voice trembled. "The largest group of infected has appeared." As the camera panned over the destruction, soldiers were seen battling unseen enemies, gunfire reverberating through the air. The news continued, detailing the economic collapse, the desperate fights for food, and the increasing fear in every corner of the globe. But the cause of it all wasn't a disaster brought on by humans themselves. No, it was far worse. It was monsters, game-like creatures, appearing in the heart of every city. With monsters rampaging through the streets, the world seemed to be losing its battle for survival. Humanity had pinned its hopes on the metahumans, those with strange abilities, thinking that they might be able to stop the apocalypse. But reality was far more complicated than the novels. The metahumans, powerful as they were, weren't nearly strong enough to wipe out the monsters or end the world's suffering. It was clear, humanity was on its own. 3 days after the world began to collapse, a lone figure sat in the midst of his apartment, the silence only broken by the crunching of chips and the soft hum of his fridge. He stared at his phone, a faint smile playing across his face as he thought, "Yes, the world hasn't ended yet. I'm still here, living just fine." But there was a bitter truth behind those words. He was alone, the only one left in a 100-square-meter apartment that had once been a symbol of his family's hard work. It wasn't always like this. He remembered how his parents, his grandparents, had all been a part of the dream when they bought this place. They'd borrowed 200 million won from the bank, plus another 200 million from their personal assets to make it possible. The idea was simple. Live here for 2 years, enjoy the tax benefits, and then life would be easier. But now, the world had fallen apart, and he was locked inside this apartment, isolated and trapped, with nothing but the ability to survive. He sighed, tapping his phone screen in frustration. "Damn it," he muttered, watching the message appear. "Poor network connection. Please reconnect." His connection to the outside world was broken, as if the universe was telling him that his life, like the world outside, was slowly disconnecting from reality. And then came the roar. It shattered the silence, a sound so terrifying that it almost made his heart stop. What was that? He thought, his body stiffening. He turned to the window, and that's when he saw it. A massive, winged creature flying toward his apartment, its mouth open, filled with sharp teeth and writhing tentacles. It was as if the nightmare had come to life, and it was headed straight for him. His breath caught in his throat, and fear surged through him. "Oh no!" he shouted, stumbling back, his heart racing. But then, just as the creature neared the window, something unexpected happened. A blue screen appeared before his eyes, and it sent a strange calm through him. It wasn't an app or a notification, but something far more surreal. Ultimate shut-in. House declaration. Passive. Levan 1. No one can enter the house without the ruler's permission. The creature, now just inches away from the window, screeched as it tried to break through. But it couldn't. There was an invisible force stopping it, a protective barrier that kept the monster at bay. The man breathed a sigh of relief, leaning against the wall as the tension in his body eased. "Okay, I'm safe, for now," he whispered to himself, shaking his head in disbelief. He stood there for a moment, just staring at the blue screen, realizing that this was no ordinary situation. The ability he had, this mysterious power, was the reason he was still alive. But it also meant that he was stuck here. He couldn't leave, couldn't go outside, even if he wanted to. And he sure didn't want to. His frustration grew as he pounded his fist on the door, trying to get it to open. "Why won't it open?" he muttered angrily, but the door stayed locked, as if mocking him. This strange ability that protected him from monsters also trapped him in his own home. 3 days had passed since the world began to collapse, and now he was paying the price. As he sat in the darkness, staring at the blue screen, another notification appeared. The ultimate shut-in cannot leave the house. He groaned, rubbing his forehead. The ultimate shut-in, huh? What a joke. The name alone was enough to make him feel like a prisoner in his own home. But he had no choice. He was stuck. The reality of survival set in. His food supply was running low, and his fridge had lost power the previous day. What little he had left were side dishes his mom had packed for him before the apocalypse, but they wouldn't last long. He stared at the empty fridge, biting his nails in worry. All I have left are some packets of ramyun. Just then, the blue screen flashed again, but this time, it wasn't just an update about his inability to leave the house. You've hunted a Calican, Levier 23. You've gained experience. He blinked in confusion, staring at the screen. Did I kill it? He stepped over to the balcony and looked out. The large creature that had attacked earlier was now lying dead on the ground, surrounded by goblins who were feasting on its remains. He was speechless. Did I really end up hunting it? By just surviving? The blue screen appeared again, and this time, it was different. Loot calculated. 2.203 million won has been deposited into your wallet. What the hell is this? He muttered in disbelief. Money? From the monster? And then, to his surprise, the lights in his apartment flickered back on. He rushed to check the fridge, working. The tap, flowing with water. The induction stove, fully operational. Everything that had been dead just moments before was now alive again. No way! Is this really happening? His voice was filled with excitement and relief. It's like everything went back to normal, just like before the world ended. But as he tried his phone again, the same message popped up. Poor network connection. Great, he muttered in frustration. The one thing that could have connected him to the outside world was still broken. But then something caught his eye, a flash drive lying on the floor. He picked it up, inserted it into his computer, and watched as old family photos appeared on the screen. There was a picture of his mom holding his hand when he was a baby, another of his parents at his birthday party. It felt like a lifetime ago. He felt a pang of longing. I need to find them. I need to bring my family here. No matter what. His voice grew determined. The blue screen flashed once more. Ultimate shut-in. Store Love 1 unlocked. You can now buy items at original prices. He stared at the list of available items. A store! His mind raced with possibilities. What can I buy? And how do I get out of this mess? The chapter ended. And as he stood there with new hope in his heart, he knew one thing for sure. Whatever it took, he was going to survive. And he would find his family. Seo Jun sat there, staring at the blue system screen as a notification popped up. You may buy items listed in the store at original prices. The store, huh? Interesting, Seo Jun muttered, curiosity piqued. Without wasting time, he clicked on the store button. A new message appeared. Would you like to list your first item? He glanced at the screen, noting the balance in his wallet. So this is connected to my shut-in's wallet. Makes sense. Deciding to test the system, he reached toward the window to throw something outside. But as he extended his hand, another notification interrupted him. The ultimate shut-in cannot leave the house. Just as I thought, Seo Jun sighed. Even with my skills leveling up, I still can't get out. But there was a glimmer of hope. Well, if I hunt monsters, my level will increase, and maybe I'll unlock new skills. If I level up enough, maybe I can get a skill to leave the house. He glanced outside, spotting a lone monster. I don't think I can expect another situation like last time, though, he thought. But then, his eyes locked on the goblins standing near the dead monster. Wait, maybe I can take down goblins. Seo-jun grabbed a water bottle and thought, let's see if the items can really leave this place. With a quick flick of his wrist, he threw the bottle outside the window and it flew far. Sweet! It works! He exclaimed. He could throw items outside the house now. Feeling a surge of excitement, he grabbed a dumbbell from the floor. All right, let's try this. But as he peered outside, he saw the goblins moving closer, inspecting the remains of the monster. Panic set in. Damn it, don't leave! Seo-jun yelled, preparing to throw the dumbbell. He wound up and tossed it with all his might, praying it wouldn't miss. The dumbbell sailed through the air but completely missed its target, smashing into the parts the goblins had been scavenging. Ah, I'm screwed, Seo-jun muttered, watching the goblins remain unharmed. He looked down at the last dumbbell in his hand. This is all I have left, he said quietly. What do I do now? I don't have anything else to throw at them. I'm not strong enough to throw TVs or computers. Suddenly, he heard the goblins making noise as they began to gather around the building. His fear deepened, but then he saw an opportunity. Wait, this isn't so bad, Seo-jun thought, scanning the distance. At this range, I think I might be able to do something. Without wasting another second, he opened the system again, saying, Open store. The familiar blue screen appeared, and he clicked on the List Items tab. The system asked, Would you like to list this item? Seo-jun nodded. Yes. The system scanned the dumbbell in his hand and announced, Classic 3KO dumbbell has been listed for 16,091. Just like when I bought it online, Seo-jun remarked, impressed. Seems like the prices are still the same as before the world ended. He clicked the option to purchase 2 more dumbbells, and a light emitted from the system, printing the dumbbells in front of him. It worked! Seo-jun cheered. Now, let's see if these dumbbells can make a difference. He hurled one dumbbell from the window, and it flew straight into a goblin's skull, smashing it open. Blood splattered, and the system immediately notified, You've hunted a goblin. Level 7. You've gained experience points. 3,345 won has been deposited into the ultimate shut-in's wallet. Yes! Seo-jun shouted in exhilaration. The goblins stood there confused as one of their own was taken out in seconds. He grabbed the second dumbbell and threw it at the group, but it missed. Damn it! He cursed. Determined not to let this opportunity slip away, Seo-jun quickly purchased 3 more sets of dumbbells. With a deep breath, he threw all 3 at the goblins. The dumbbells smashed into the goblins, killing them instantly. The system notified, You've hunted a goblin. Level 6. 2,512 won has been deposited into the ultimate shut-in's wallet. Your skill level has increased. Nice! Seo-jun beamed, feeling the adrenaline rush. Then, another notification appeared. You've unlocked a new skill, alternate dimension storage. Seo-jun blinked, reading the message again. A storage skill? He said with excitement. Open storage, he commanded. He grabbed one of the dumbbells and the system asked, Would you like to place this item in storage? Seo-jun nodded. Yes. The dumbbell was immediately scanned into the system, and a prompt appeared. Would you like to summon this item? Yes, Seo-jun responded. In an instant, the dumbbell reappeared in his hand. This is awesome! I can summon items from storage anytime, he said with a wide grin. In that case, his eyes glinted with mischief. Open storage! Summon dumbbells! Suddenly, dozens of dumbbells materialized above the goblins. The goblins stood frozen for a moment before the dumbbells began to rain down, crashing into their heads, killing them instantly. Blood splattered everywhere as dumbbells fell like a deadly hailstorm. You've hunted goblins. Level 5, Level 6, Level 7. You've gained a large amount of experience points. 54,661 has been deposited into the ultimate shut-in's wallet, the system announced. Seo-jun grinned, watching the goblins collapse. His eyes turned back to the screen as another notification appeared. Would you like to list additional items?
Hell yes!
Seo-jun shouted, excitement in his voice as he clicked yes. Started listing some items in the shop after the system opened. First, he added dumbbells for 16,991, instant ramen for 31,001, water for 12,401, rice, eggs, easy-to-digest milk, canola oil, and even half-used tomato ketchup. Total, 2.178 million won. Not bad, right? But then, as he was calculating his profits, he noticed something on the blue screen. Money was slowly disappearing. His eyes widened in panic. What is this? I lost 1 won? So June stared at the screen, baffled. It doesn't cost money to keep dignity preservation on, does it? He groaned. It wasn't like he could afford any more losses right now. He wasn't even able to relax when he noticed something even worse. Bills were showing up on the screen. Electric, gas, water. He wasn't ready for this. Damn it! How do goblins handle their bills, huh? He muttered, glaring at the papers scattered all over. I kill goblins with dumbbells, but I can't even avoid paying the damn utilities. So June stared out of the window, trying to figure out a way to get rid of this problem. Maybe I can find another goblin to hunt. Or, I don't know, a mutant pigeon. Something. Anything. He sighed, realizing there were no goblins in sight. Well, crap. What now? But just when it seemed like things couldn't get worse, he saw something flying in the distance. His eyes narrowed as he recognized the silhouette of a flying monster. A calican. The excitement in his chest was palpable. That's it! This is my ticket out of here. I'm definitely gonna level up if I kill that thing. He quickly grabbed a mirror and shone it toward the creature. The calican, with its sharp, horrifying teeth and tongue-like tentacles, was confused by the reflection. So June smirked, knowing exactly what would happen next. Perfect. Time to make this thing fly straight into my trap. And sure enough, the calican flew toward him. It wasn't exactly graceful, but it was coming. It worked! This is it! This is my chance to level up! So June's heart raced as he watched the beast soar closer to the building. But then, out of nowhere, the calican stopped. Instead of crashing into the building, it started generating gusts of wind with its wings. The force of the air pressure nearly knocked Seo-jun off his feet. What the? This isn't part of the plan! He screamed, struggling to stay balanced as the wind almost pushed him out the window. He looked up at the creature in shock, but before he could react, the calican's claws shot out, grabbing the window ledge like it was about to break in. So June froze, panic creeping in. No way! It's not going to break through, is it? Open store! So June shouted, thinking fast. He needed a plan, and fast. His mind was racing as the calican screeched outside the window. The blue screen popped up with an option. Will you list this item? He had no time to think. Yes! Just do it! He shouted in frustration. He needed anything that would work. The blue screen didn't waste time. Item listed. And just like that, Seo-jun's plan came to life. He bought 10 bottles of canola oil. It wasn't exactly high-tech, but it was worth a shot. He grabbed the bottles and ran to the stove, tossing them into a pan. I swear this better work, he muttered to himself as he heated the oil. With the oil bubbling away, he wrapped a cloth around a stick, dipped it into the oil, and set it on fire. Open store? He yelled again, hoping for the best. The system responded, item listed. So June's face lit up. This is it, he said, grabbing the flaming stick and running to the window. With the calican still outside, he shouted, Summon canola oil! The system obeyed. Boiling hot oil rained down onto the calican. The creature screeched in pain as the oil burned its flesh. Seo-jun yelled in victory as he saw the calican writhe in agony. The creature started to burn, flapping its wings in a desperate attempt to escape. Seo-jun wasn't letting it get away now. He threw the flaming cloth at the calican with one last shout. Die! The Calican, now fully on fire, spiraled out of control and crashed to the ground.
Yes, it worked!
So June cheered, fist pumping the air. The system chimed in. Massive experience gained. So June froze.
Wait, what?
Skill level increased, the system notified him, and so June's jaw dropped. Another notification popped up. Loot requirements met. Loot calculation in progress. So June rubbed his eyes, and then it happened. The system flashed again, and the notification read, 9,347 million won has been deposited into the wallet of the ultimate shut-in.
Wait, what? 9 million? That's almost 10 million.
No way! So June couldn't believe his eyes. He was sitting on a fortune, all thanks to a flying monster and some canola oil. But the excitement didn't stop there. The screen flashed once again, and the next notification made So June freeze in shock. Territory expansion requirements met.
What the hell is going on?
He gasped, looking around as the space around him began to change. His house was expanding. No, it wasn't just expanding, it was growing. And so June could feel the transformation happening all around him.
What the hell is this?
So June shouted, unable to comprehend what was going on. He looked around and suddenly he could see through the walls like some kind of X-ray vision. He could see the neighbors in the house next door.
Wait,
are those my neighbors? He muttered, still reeling from everything that had just happened. The truth was, so June's life was never going to be the same again. From goblins to flying monsters to territory expansions and X-ray vision, he had no idea what kind of game he was playing now. But one thing was for sure. He was going to need a lot more canola oil. Seo Jun was in a state of panic, clutching his eyes as he muttered,
"What's happening, people?"
The world around him seemed to twist and distort, but just as suddenly his vision returned to normal. Gasping for air, he murmured, "Just a moment ago, what was that?" Before he could make sense of it, a system notification popped up in front of him, providing information about a nearby family. Choi Hyung-jun, husband, and Park Hee-won, wife, late 30s, with 2 children aged 6 and 3. The system continued, notifying him, "You have discovered beings that meet the requirements for citizenship. Would you like to grant them citizenship?" Staring at the screen, Seo Jun asked cautiously, "What happens if I don't grant them citizenship?" The system's cold, mechanical voice responded, "Beings not granted citizenship will be expelled from the house." The system asked again, "Are you certain you do not wish to grant them citizenship?" Seo Jun's mind raced. He muttered to himself, "If I don't grant them citizenship, they'll be exposed to the monsters outside." After a moment of deliberation, he firmly declared, "Grant the 4 of them citizenship." The system confirmed, Choi Hyung-jun, Park Hye-won, and their 2 children have been granted citizenship. Seo Jun sighed in relief. "Great," he said to himself. "Maybe I've unlocked new skills related to citizenship as well. Time to check." He navigated through the system interface. The system displayed, "Ultimate Eyes, Level 1. Nothing in the house can escape your sight." Seo Jun nodded, intrigued, and asked, "Do I have anything else related to citizenship?" The system displayed another notification. "Ruler's Declaration, Passive Level 6. No one can enter the house without the ruler's permission." Additionally, a new option appeared on the screen. Citizenship Management. Seo Jun's eyes lit up. "Oh, here it is," he said, clicking on the option. The screen displayed the names of the husband, wife, and their children, along with their levels and additional details. It also showed the current population, 4,600. Seo Jun was taken aback. 600 people? Isn't that way too many? He clicked on the husband's profile and the system displayed, "Trust level 24, awakened ability, none, EXP and money, 0%. There was also an option to give quest. Seo Jun muttered, "EXP and money distribution. It's talking about the resources they'll share with me. I can even control how much I want." A smile crept onto his face. So this is how I'm supposed to get stronger. Curious, he clicked on the Give Quest option. The system prompted, "You can set a quest description, time limit, rewards, and penalties for failure." Seo-jun's eyes widened. "I can customize quest details?" "That's interesting," he said. The system displayed an example quest. Hunt a goblin. Time limit, 168 hours. Reward, a small amount of EXP. Penalty for failure, none. Seo-jun contemplated the penalties. How far can I go with the penalty for failure? He wondered aloud. He typed, penalty for failure, death, and the system updated the quest. The screen now read, would you like to assign this quest? Seo-jun froze for a moment before shouting, no! The system responded, you have canceled the quest. Sitting down, Seo-jun thought to himself, if I wanted to, I could kill my citizens any time. This is my ability. But what do I do now? To distract himself, he activated his ultimate eyes skill by saying the command aloud. Instantly, his surroundings turned black, and his vision transformed into an X-ray-like mode, allowing him to see through walls. He marveled at the sight. I can see everything, he whispered. The scene shifted to the neighbors. The wife, Park Hee-won, spoke to her husband with a worried expression. Darling, what do we do now? She asked. Her husband, Choi Hyung-jun, replied grimly, what else can we do? I need to go out and at least get some water. You stay here with the kids and wait. Park Hee-won protested, you can't do that! It's too dangerous! Choi Hyung-jun sighed. I know, but we don't have any other choice. He added, I'll try the convenience store nearby. It's a big store, so there should be something left. Their 6-year-old daughter tugged at her mother's sleeve. Mom, I'm thirsty, she said softly. Choi Hyung-jun placed a reassuring hand on his wife's shoulder. Seo-yeon, you trust me, right? I'll definitely bring something back. Just wait here for me. Despite her sadness and worry, Park Hee-won nodded. Meanwhile, Seo-jun deactivated his Ultimate Eyes skill, bringing his surroundings back to normal. Disappear, Ultimate Eyes, he commanded. Turning to his system, he said, open the system store. The situation was worse than he had imagined. As he scrolled through the store's options, he muttered, it would be great if there was a way to store more items. He opened the skill window, which displayed, Store Level 1, can buy items at original prices. Points. 3. Alternate Dimension Storage, Level 1. Seo-jun smiled. Yes, he said. The system asked, would you like to increase the level of the Ultimate Shut-in Store skill? Seo-jun replied, yes. The screen shone brightly as the system updated. Store level is now 2. The number of items that can be listed has increased to 20. A 10% discount has been applied to all item prices, the system announced. Seo-jun grinned. Oh, that's good. With 2 points remaining, he decided, I'll invest more in the store and dignity preservation skills. I might meet even more citizens in the future. The system confirmed, store level is now 3. Number of items increased to 40. You now have the function to restore old items and turn them into new ones. Seo-jun's eyes sparkled. A restoration function? This is definitely worth it, he said. Open store. The store interface opened, displaying a variety of items. Seo-jun quickly purchased water and Jeju tangerines. Let's increase the level of my other skills too, he said. The system asked, would you like to increase the level of both skills? Seo-jun nodded. Yes. The system notified him. Ultimate Shut-in Dignity Preservation is now Level 2. You can now register vassals. Seo-jun frowned in confusion. Vassals? What's that? He wondered. The scene cut back to the neighbors.
Choi Hyung-jun was preparing to leave the house. Park Hae-won, holding their children close, pleaded. "Darling," he reassured her, "I'll be back. Protect the house while I'm gone, okay?" Their daughter asked tearfully, "Are you really going out, Dad?" Choi Hyung-jun knelt down and patted her head. "Yes, sweetie. I'll get us some food and water. Listen to your mom while I'm gone," she cried. "But Dad, there are monsters outside." The scene shifted to 3 days earlier when the family had been playing in the park. Suddenly, goblin-like monsters appeared, forcing Choi Hyung-jun and Park Hee-won to grab their children and flee. Back in the present, Park Hee-won tried to calm the children as they cried. Choi Hyung-jun, standing by the door, thought to himself, "This could be the last time I see them." Suddenly, there was a knock at the door. The family froze in fear. "Who is it?" Choi Hyung-jun whispered. From the other side of the door, Seo-jun's voice called out, "Excuse me? Please open the door." Panicking, Choi Hyung-jun grabbed a golf club and whispered, "Is that a person? Or could it be a monster? It's too dangerous." However, the knocking stopped. "Did he leave?" Choi Hyung-jun asked, still clutching the golf club. Suddenly, the door unlocked on its own, and a bright light filled the room. In a panic, Choi Hyung-jun shielded his family and shouted, "No! Don't hurt my wife and children!" Seo-jun's voice cut through the tension. "Hi, excuse me?" Choi Hyung-jun cautiously asked. "Who are you?" Seo-jun replied, "Hi, I'm Kim Seo-jun. I live next door. I brought some water and tangerines. Can we talk after you've had something to eat and drink?" Choi Hyung-jun hesitated, torn between suspicion and desperation. Looking at his hungry wife and children, he finally relented. "Water and food. I have no reason to refuse. This person might be able to help us. For now, please, come in." The scene shifts to the children, who are staring at Seo-jun with wide eyes, filled with confusion and curiosity. Their gazes seem to convey that they view him as a strange person, possibly even a pervert. Seo-jun feels a slight hesitation, realizing that his sudden actions and the situation might be too much of a shock for them. Sitting in the hall, he takes a moment to reflect on his surroundings, attempting to assess the situation more calmly. As his eyes scan the room, he notices the blackout curtains covering the windows, an important detail that immediately stands out. It dawns on him just how wise this decision was. These blackout curtains provide an extra layer of protection by greatly reducing the chance of attracting attention from any monsters lurking outside. Seo-jun's attention then shifts upward to the ceiling, where a light bulb hangs, casting a dim glow throughout the room. The darkness in the room unsettles him, and an instinctive thought crosses his mind. "Let's get some light in here first." Without a second thought, Seo-jun focuses his energy, and his eyes briefly glow blue. In an instant, the lights flicker back to life, filling the room with brightness. The sudden change catches the husband by surprise, and he stares at Seo-jun with wide eyes, murmuring, "Huh? The lights are back on." Seo-jun, unfazed by the reaction, calmly picks up a water bottle from the nearby table and hands it to the husband. "For starters," he says, "please give your children some water." The husband hesitates for a moment, uncertain of how to proceed, but after a brief pause, he takes the bottle and passes it to his daughters. The children eagerly accept the water, their faces revealing just how desperate they had been for something as simple as that. One of the girls, too eager to quench her thirst, drinks too quickly, causing her to choke slightly. Her mother rushes to her side in concern, asking, "Seo-yeon, are you all right?" Seo-yeon nods, wiping her mouth, but her intense thirst is still evident in her eyes. Seo-jun observes the children carefully, noting their fragile state. His attention is drawn to them, sensing the weight of their struggle. But then, unexpectedly, one of the girls looks up at him, her eyes bright with curiosity.
"Do you have oranges?" she asks, her voice soft but filled with an almost innocent longing. Seo-jun is taken aback for a moment by the question. It's an odd request given the circumstances, but without hesitation he raises his hand, and in a swift motion, a fresh, ripe orange materializes out of thin air. He hands it to the girl, who accepts it eagerly, her eyes filled with gratitude. Her mother quickly peels the orange, saying, "Wait, Seo-yeon, I'll peel it for you." She carefully removes the rind, and with a tender smile, hands the fruit back to her daughter. Seo-yeon's face lights up with pure joy as she takes her first bite. The simple pleasure of eating an orange seems to provide a fleeting sense of happiness in an otherwise grim world. Her mother watches her with a loving smile and asks, "Is it good?" Seo-yeon nods enthusiastically, her face radiating happiness, a moment of pure bliss in the midst of the chaos they find themselves in. Not wanting to miss out, the other daughter leans forward eagerly, her excitement palpable. "Mom, me too, she exclaims. Her mother, smiling at her, hands her a slice of the orange. The girl eagerly takes a bite, her face lighting up just as her sisters did. The act of sharing food, something so simple and yet so precious, brings an unexpected moment of joy amidst the dire circumstances they're all facing. A notification pops up, and the system indicates that the trust levels of all the citizens in the room have increased. Notably, Choi Seo-yeon's trust level has reached 50, unlocking her loyalty. The system goes on to inform him that her loyalty has surpassed 30, which means she now qualifies to be registered as a vassal. Seo-jun leans back slightly, processing this new information. She fulfilled the requirements to be registered as a vassal, he murmurs to himself, though his expression is clouded with concern. He looks over at Seo-yeon, whose youthful face now appears even more fragile in his eyes. The gravity of the situation settles in his mind. Unlike regular citizens, Seo-jun can only register 10 vassals, and they need to be capable individuals, ones who can carry out orders when needed. A child like Seo-yeon may not be ready for such a responsibility. Seo-jun's focus shifts to the father, Choi Hyung-jun, who is sitting nearby, observing the interaction between his daughters. The system shows his trust level is at 31, not very high, which further confirms Seo-jun's concerns. This trust is not enough to rely on him fully just yet. Seo-jun knows that to turn Choi Hyung-jun into a valuable ally, he needs to increase the father's trust and loyalty. Mr. Choi expresses his gratitude to Seo-jun, though his words come out with hesitation, unsure how to repay the kindness Seo-jun has shown him. Seo-jun, sensing the awkwardness, suggests they move to the corridor to discuss things further. The husband, though puzzled, agrees to follow him. In the quiet of the corridor, Seo-jun asks if the Choi family received their citizenship. Mr. Choi responds in surprise, explaining that he and his family received the notification a short time ago, but he is still processing what it means. A blue screen, similar to the one Seo-jun had seen earlier, had appeared before him, announcing the change in their status. Seo-jun, noticing Mr. Choi's confusion, asks if anything unusual occurred when they received the citizenship. Mr. Choi mentions that they had been unable to move their bodies for a short while after receiving the notification. This triggers a thought in Seo-jun's mind about the system's effect on people upon granting citizenship, temporarily freezing them in place. Seo-jun contemplates this and then offers a promise to Mr. Choi. He assures him that he can help restore the life they once knew, a life free from the fear of monster attacks. Mr. Choi, still unsure of how this could be possible, is taken aback by the offer. Seo-jun reassures him, stating that he can prevent monsters from invading their home. The idea of living without the constant threat of monsters seems almost too good to be true, and Mr. Choi struggles to believe it. However, Seo-jun's confidence and calm demeanor seem to offer a glimmer of hope. Mr. Choi, realizing that this may be his only chance for a better future, asks what he must do in exchange for this protection. Seo-jun's response is blunt but honest.
He warns Mr. Choi that the task he is about to undertake may cost him his life. But if he's willing to take the risk, Seo-jun will help him. The seriousness of the situation weighs heavily on both of them, but Mr. Choi, driven by his desire to protect his family, accepts without hesitation. Seo-jun is impressed by Mr. Choi's determination and shifts his tone, lightening the conversation briefly. He casually asks about a golf club he had seen earlier, inquiring about its price. Mr. Choi, still unsure why Seo-jun is asking such a question, answers that it cost a significant amount of money. Seo-jun reflects on this in his mind, recognizing that such luxury items are expensive, especially considering the dire state of the world. He realizes that he needs to focus on saving money for the future, and that for now, items like the golf club are too costly to be of any use. Mr. Choi, sensing the change in Seo-jun's demeanor, asks why he's asking about the golf club. Seo-jun dismisses the question quickly, stating that it's not important. He then steers the conversation back to the more pressing matters at hand, asking Mr. Choi if he remembers the day the monsters first appeared. Mr. Choi's face darkens as he recalls the terror of that day, a day that changed everything for his family. Seo-jun, observing the emotional toll the memory takes on Mr. Choi, continues his thoughts on the monsters. He explains that a single goblin is not much of a threat on its own, but the real danger comes when they attack in groups. He surmises that anyone who stayed at home on that day, when the monsters first arrived, likely survived the attack. Seo-jun's thoughts turn inward as he contemplates his own strategy. He knows that he needs to build a strong group of allies, a community of survivors who can support each other in the face of the monsters' relentless attacks. His next words reflect this shift in focus. He tells Mr. Choi that he wants him to help search for other survivors. The task ahead is not just about survival, it's about creating a network of people who can join together to fight back against the threats they face. Mr. Choi, understanding the importance of the mission, agrees to join Seo-jun in the search for survivors. Mr. Choi's determination to protect his family remains evident. He is willing to risk everything for their safety, and this commitment to his family is something Seo-jun respects. As the conversation draws to a close, Seo-jun feels a sense of purpose, knowing that the foundation for something greater is being built, one survivor at a time. Night had fallen over the city, casting a heavy silence across the desolate streets. Inside the building, Seo-jun lay sprawled across the sofa, his mind wandering as he gazed at the digital screen projected by his system. The familiar notification pinged, pulling him from his thoughts. It displayed an increase in trust levels. Choi Hyung-jun's trust had risen, as had that of his family. Seo-jun's eyes scanned the updated figures. Choi Hyung-jun's trust level now stood at 40, Mrs. Choi's at 32, while the children's levels were at 51 and 63, respectively. A small smile formed on his lips. Every small gain felt significant in the grim world they inhabited. For Seo-jun, these incremental shifts represented hope, a chance to gradually build a safe haven where he could reunite with his own loved ones someday. However, his moment of quiet reflection was abruptly interrupted by the sound of distant screams. His body tensed and his eyes widened in alarm. He immediately sprang to his feet and rushed to the balcony, peering down at the chaos unfolding below. The sight that greeted him was a chilling reminder of the world's current state. A group of terrified individuals was fighting desperately against a pack of goblins that had ambushed them. Their cries of fear echoed through the night, mingling with the guttural snarls of the monstrous creatures. Seo-jun's heart sank as he observed the scene, realizing that these people were facing overwhelming odds. He wanted to help, but felt powerless. His resources were limited and his own safety was precarious. It was clear that stepping into such a volatile situation could endanger not only himself, but also those who depended on him. As he grappled with these thoughts, something extraordinary happened. One of the individuals in the group hurled an object with incredible speed and precision, striking a goblin and taking it down instantly. The sheer force of the attack left Seo-jun stunned.
Moments later, another figure emerged, a young woman armed with a bow. With fluid movements, she released an arrow that hit its mark, eliminating 2 goblins at once. Seo-jun watched in awe as a third individual, a towering figure wielding a baseball bat, leaped into action. With a single, powerful swing, he obliterated the last goblin, leaving a gruesome scene of splattered blood in his wake. The remaining goblins, now overwhelmed by the sudden and decisive counterattack, retreated into the shadows. Seo-jun couldn't help but be impressed by the group's teamwork and strength. Their actions reminded him of something straight out of a superhero movie, a cohesive unit that seemed invincible against the odds. However, the archer, seemingly attuned to her surroundings, suddenly tensed. Her eyes scanned the area cautiously, and her bow was drawn once more. Seo-jun, curious about what had caught her attention, quickly realized that her gaze had settled on a small packet of snacks lying nearby. He chuckled softly to himself, realizing he had impulsively thrown it in an attempt to catch their attention. From his vantage point, he waved enthusiastically, hoping to make contact. The young woman glanced up, her expression a mixture of curiosity and disbelief. Seo-jun's energetic gestures seemed to confuse her, but before their interaction could progress, a knock at the door pulled him away. Turning from the balcony, Seo-jun made his way to the door, where Mr. Choi stood waiting. In his hands, he carried a large box filled with items that could potentially be used as weapons. Seo-jun opened the door to welcome him, but as Mr. Choi attempted to step inside, an invisible barrier blocked his path. Confused, Mr. Choi looked to Seo-jun for an explanation. The system had activated, deeming him unqualified to enter the premises. Seo-jun's mind raced as he pieced together the implications of this restriction. It appeared that only individuals registered as his vassals were granted access to the sanctuary of his home. Apologizing for the inconvenience, Seo-jun accepted the box from Mr. Choi. Inside, he found an assortment of tools and knives, items that could potentially be used for self-defense or survival. Grateful for the contribution, Seo-jun decided to take things a step further. Accessing his system, he purchased bottled water and instant noodles from the virtual store. The process, which seemed mundane to him by now, left Mr. Choi visibly astonished. The seamless materialization of food and supplies was a stark contrast to the harsh scarcity of the outside world. Seo-jun carefully packed the items and handed them back to Mr. Choi, requesting that he deliver them to the first floor of the building. Mr. Choi hesitated, his expression reflecting his concern. The first floor was a dangerous zone, one that was often frequented by goblins. Seo-jun reassured him, explaining that his observations had revealed a pattern. The goblins were active primarily during daylight hours. His voice carried a calm conviction as he laid out his plan. By leaving food and supplies in a visible location, he hoped to draw the survivors outside into his fold. Hunger and desperation would eventually lead them to seek him out, and when they did, he would be ready to offer them security in exchange for their trust. As Mr. Choi left with the supplies in hand, Seo-jun watched him disappear into the corridor. Closing the door, Seo-jun reflected on the man's courage and decided he needed to provide him with something meaningful in return. Opening the system interface, Seo-jun began configuring a quest specifically for Mr. Choi. It was a strategic move. By completing this task, Mr. Choi would gain experience and a sense of achievement. The quest was straightforward. Deliver 5 bottles of water and 5 packets of ramyeon to the first floor and return safely within 24 hours. Once the task was set, the system promptly notified Mr. Choi of the quest, startling him. As Mr. Choi paused mid-step to process the notification, he realized that the task wasn't just a simple errand, but part of a structured system that could enhance his abilities. Seo-jun explained that completing the quest would grant him experience points, allowing him to level up and unlock greater rewards. This idea of progress and rewards intrigued Mr. Choi, who likened it to leveling up in a video game. Despite his initial skepticism, he was motivated by the potential benefits
and resolved to take on the task. With the box in hand and a golf club as his makeshift weapon, he began his cautious descent from the 20th floor to the ground floor. The journey down was fraught with tension. Each creak of the stairs and flicker of shadows heightened Mr. Choi's anxiety. Reaching the first floor, he felt a brief moment of relief as he placed the box at the designated spot. However, his sense of safety was short-lived. Movement in the darkness caught his eye, and his heart raced as he noticed the shifting shadows. Fear gripped him as the realization of goblins possibly lurking nearby set in. In his panic to retreat quickly, he stumbled over a loose tile, falling to the ground and scattering the bottles and ramen packets across the floor. A sharp pain radiated from his twisted ankle, further immobilizing him. Desperation surged as he struggled to move, frantically willing his body to cooperate. His mind raced with thoughts of the goblins closing in, and the fear of being defenseless in their presence consumed him. The shadows seemed to grow larger as they approached, and he instinctively raised his arms to shield himself, bracing for the worst. But instead of an attack, a voice broke through the silence, startling him. Emerging from the shadows was not the goblins he feared, but a group of individuals he recognized from earlier. These were the same people Seo-jun had observed from his balcony, a team with remarkable skills who had previously dispatched goblins with ease. Seo-jun's focus shifts to a notification from the blue system that warns him about an unpermitted subject attempting to enter the building. Intrigued, Seo-jun decides to investigate and activates his Ultimate Eyes ability. His vision changes, darkening his surroundings while revealing the events on the first floor. He sees Mr. Choi entering the building with a group of 6 individuals, the same people who had fought goblins earlier. Among them, the hawk-eyed girl points out the apartment building as the source of the food packets, while the Hulk-like boy speculates that the building might have food. Another member, a baseball player, mentions their dwindling rations, fueling their interest in the building. After observing them, Seo-jun deactivates his Ultimate Eyes, returning his surroundings to normal. As Seo-jun processes the situation, the system presents him with an option: to propose citizenship to the group. He recalls that expanding his territory automatically granted citizenship to those within it, but outsiders were given the choice to accept or reject his proposal. This uncertainty leaves him worried. What if they refused? Deep in thought, Seo-jun contemplates his next steps when the sound of the doorbell interrupts him. Through the door camera, Seo-jun sees Mr. Choi waiting. Mr. Choi asks for his attention, and Seo-jun responds courteously. The system informs Seo-jun that Mr. Choi is still in the middle of his quest and offers to edit it. With a mischievous smile, Seo-jun refreshes the quest, adding a new task for Mr. Choi: to treat the 6 guests to a meal. He informs Mr. Choi of the update and instructs him to tell the group about the meal offer as part of the quest. Mr. Choi complies and relays the message to the group, who tentatively agree to the arrangement. Mr. Choi then returns to inform Seo-jun of their decision. Satisfied, Seo-jun uses the system to formally propose citizenship to the 6 individuals: Ha Dong-geon, Kang Deok-soo, Kim Ga-young, Yoo Hye-rin, Kim Gaeon, and Moon Byung-ho. The system grants them access to the 30th floor, allowing them to enter the building without resistance. Seo-jun receives another notification, revealing that the total number of citizens in the building has now reached 10. This milestone comes with a bonus: a 10% increase in the experience points, EXP, and money earned by all citizens. Delighted by this unexpected benefit, Seo-jun sees it as an advantage for future monster hunts. Curious about the new citizens, Seo-jun reviews their trust levels and abilities. Ha Dong-geon stands out with a level of 23 and an awakened ability called Baseball Throw. This ability, ranked as D, allows him to triple the power of his throws by consuming stamina, making it a potent weapon against monsters. Seo-jun recognizes the potential of this skill and acknowledges that Dong-jeon is a meta-human. While Dong-jeon's trust level is relatively low, Seo-jun resolves to build it over time. He adjusts the system settings, allocating 70% of the group's EXP to their own growth while retaining the rest for himself. Pleased with this setup, Seojun plans to assign them quests for monster hunting, enabling him to gain rewards indirectly while observing their capabilities. Despite his pragmatic approach, he also realizes the importance of building rapport with them, as they could be instrumental in reuniting him with his family. Unexpectedly, the system notifies Seojun of an increase in trust levels for some of the new citizens, including Ha Dong-gyeon, Kim Ga-young, and Yoo Hyerin. Confused by the sudden rise, Seojun wonders about the cause. The scene shifts to Mr. Choi's apartment, where he welcomes the group inside. His wife, initially puzzled by the sudden guests, asks for an explanation. Mr. Choi reassures her but requests her help in preparing food for the visitors. Despite her initial hesitation, she agrees, determined to make the meal from scratch. With a nod of agreement, she left to carry out his instructions, asking the group to wait patiently. Their expressions were a mix of gratitude and disbelief as they watched her walk away. The baseball player, however, couldn't suppress his curiosity about the man who had so effortlessly taken charge of their chaotic situation. Turning to Mr. Choi, he hesitated before finally asking what kind of person Seojun really was. Mr. Choi's response was surprisingly vague, and the baseball player was taken aback when Mr. Choi admitted he didn't know much about his neighbor. He explained that apart from living next door, Seojun remained somewhat of an enigma, though he added that the man was certainly intriguing. The baseball player's mind began to race. The thought that Seojun could be a metahuman crossed his mind. He started piecing things together, the ease with which Seojun had provided electricity, food, and water, all resources that were unimaginably scarce in this broken world. Seojun's earlier actions, like casually throwing a snack from the building to save them, now seemed almost superhuman. These weren't the abilities of an ordinary man. The baseball player's thoughts deepened as he realized that Seojun was not just a man of great capability, but perhaps someone with the power to change everything. Meanwhile, Mr. Choi broke the silence, offering the group a chance to take a shower while the food was being prepared. The idea of a shower was met with incredulous excitement, particularly from the women in the group, who could hardly believe that such a luxury was even possible anymore. When Mr. Choi mentioned that warm water was available, their disbelief turned into sheer joy. The notion of warm water, a comfort they hadn't experienced in weeks, brought tears of relief to some. Mr. Choi explained that this too was thanks to Seojun's abilities, and he guided them to the bathrooms with a kind smile. As the women left to clean up, the men in the group began to speculate further about Seojun. One of them suggested, half-jokingly, that Seojun might be someone they needed to challenge or overpower to secure more resources. However, the baseball player quickly shut down such reckless ideas. He insisted that their focus should be on gaining Seojun's trust and not risking conflict. It was clear to him that Seojun was a man of immense power and influence, someone who could provide what no one else could in this collapsed world. The last thing they needed was to provoke him. Despite the baseball player's firm stance, Byung-ho, one of the group members, seemed lost in thought. His quiet demeanor didn't go unnoticed, and the baseball player addressed him directly, apologizing for the circumstances they were in. He expressed regret for inviting them to his ill-fated housewarming party, the event that had set everything in motion. But Byung-ho reassured him that it wasn't his fault. He had chosen to come, knowing the risks, and there was no point in dwelling on the past. Even so, the baseball player promised that once they secured enough food, they would head to Byung-ho's grandmother's place together. The mention of his grandmother brought a wave of emotion to Byung-ho, who had been silently worrying about her fate. He couldn't shake the fear that she might not have survived the monstrous threats that now roamed freely. Still, he clung to a fragile hope, convincing himself that if they worked together, they might reach her in time. As they waited, a strange tension filled the room. There was a sense of unease, a gut feeling that something was approaching.
The survivors instinctively braced themselves, their nerves taut as they stared at the door. When it finally creaked open, their worst fears seemed about to be realized. The baseball player readied his weapon, a baseball, his heart pounding in his chest. But instead of danger, it was Seo-jun who stepped through the door. His calm, commanding presence immediately dispelled the tension. There was an air of certainty about him, as though he had anticipated every obstacle and already had a solution in mind. He assured the group that he would help them, his words carrying a weight that made even the most skeptical among them believe him. For the baseball player, seeing Seo-jun in action only solidified his earlier thoughts. The scene unfolds with the group seated around a table, gathered for a conference of sorts with Seo-jun at the center. The atmosphere is a bit cramped, and Mrs. Choi apologizes for the lack of space. The baseball player reassures her that it's perfectly fine and that they are the ones who arrived unannounced. Soon, Mr. Choi enters from behind, carrying a food tray and announcing that the meal is ready. As he places the food in front of everyone, there is an air of excitement. The survivors, clearly famished, look at the food with eager anticipation, grateful for the opportunity to finally eat something substantial. Mrs. Choi, though a little embarrassed, expresses her concern that the food might not meet their expectations, but the meal looks nothing short of delicious. As they dig in, the Hawkeye girl takes a bite, and, in shock and disbelief, exclaims that the food is amazing, even better than she could have imagined. Mrs. Choi mentions that the ingredients were provided by Seo-jun, and without his help, they would have only had rice and tangerines to offer. At this, a notification pops up in front of Seo-jun, displaying the trust level of Park Hye-won, now at level 50. He muses to himself that he didn't expect her trust to surpass her husband's at such an early stage. While everyone continues to enjoy their meal, there is a sense of happiness and warmth in the air. The group thanks Mrs. Choi for the meal, and the Hawkeye girl exclaims how much she loves the egg rolls. Another girl, recognizing the sweet style of the egg rolls, mentions that it resembles what Japanese restaurants serve. Mrs. Choi confirms this and encourages everyone to enjoy the food. Just then, Mrs. Choi's daughter appears from behind, looking at the egg rolls and asking her mother if she can have some too. Mrs. Choi, with a gentle pat on her head, tells her that she will make more once their guests are done eating. The little girl's face falls in disappointment, and the Hawkeye girl, noticing this, happily offers to share her egg rolls with the child. The girl's eyes light up with joy, and she eagerly runs over, sitting down next to the Hawkeye girl. The Hawkeye girl then playfully feeds Seo-yeon a piece of the egg roll, saying, "Say ah," as she holds out the food with her chopsticks. Seo-yeon loves it, and the whole group laughs and cheers at the heartwarming moment. Seo-jun, observing the scene, kindly asks Mr. and Mrs. Choi to join them at the table and enjoy the meal together. There is enough space for everyone, and after a moment of consideration, they agree to join in. As they all settle down to eat, Seo-jun, quietly reflecting, thinks to himself that it's been a long time since he had a meal like this. The warmth and comfort of the food remind him of his mother, and he silently hopes that everyone, wherever they are, is safe. Just as the meal progresses, Mrs. Choi's daughter, now tired and sleepy, calls out to her mother, saying she wants to go to bed. Mrs. Choi, understanding, responds kindly, telling her to go and get some rest. The mood shifts slightly as Seo-jun, sensing the conversation isn't over, urges the group to finish discussing the matter they had started earlier. He asks the baseball player why they aren't able to reach their grandmother's house, even though it's so close by. The baseball player explains that it is due to the goblins. Seo-jun, taken aback, asks for clarification, and the baseball player confirms that goblins are indeed the reason. The baseball player goes on to explain that the goblins have taken refuge in the underground parking lot of the apartment building, making it their base. Seo-jun, thinking this over, reflects on the underground parking lot, remembering it from his earlier observations. The baseball player continues, revealing that they estimate there are at least a few thousand goblins holed up in the underground area. Seo-jun, deep in thought, mentally mumbles that the ultimate shut-in ability only applies until the 30th floor, which explains how the goblins were able to infiltrate the apartment building via the underground parking lot. The player goes on to share that all the apartment entrances are connected to the underground parking, making it unsafe to venture out. He adds that their original plan had been to use the side roads to escape, but they soon encountered a far more dangerous monster than the goblins. This revelation causes Seo-jun's expression to change. He asks, his voice now serious, "A monster more dangerous than goblins?" The conversation turns more serious as the baseball player continues explaining the creature they encountered. He describes it as resembling either a wolf or a bear, but the low visibility in the area made it difficult to get a clear view. He explains that they were only able to escape because the beast was engaged in a fight with a group of goblins. Seo-jun, pondering the description, thinks to himself about the possibility of it being either of those creatures, but there's still uncertainty. The baseball player, now with a fearful expression, admits that the darkness made it impossible to confirm exactly what they were dealing with. Seo-jun, ever the realist, acknowledges the danger but insists that they can't avoid facing these creatures forever. In the end, they would have to confront them. The baseball player agrees but points out that there are limits to what they can do. Seo-jun raises an eyebrow at this mention of limits, prompting the group to explain further. They reveal that they only have basic weapons at their disposal, such as bows and baseballs, and eventually, they will run out of ammo. Seo-jun, with his usual calm demeanor, raises his hand to suggest a solution. He offers to help them by improving their weapons. He asks to see their arrows and baseballs. The group, somewhat surprised by his request, hands them over to him. Seo-jun, with a swift motion, opens the system and asks it to list the items. The system responds, showing that the bow is in good condition, but to list it, Seo-jun would need to pay 1.53 million won. Without hesitation, he accepts the cost, knowing the value it will bring to their group. Seo-jun then asks the group if anyone is proficient with a bow. He follows this up by instructing the system to purchase 5 sets of bows and arrows. The system immediately processes the request and prints the items. Seo-jun hands out the bows to everyone, advising them to practice, even if they've never used one before. This would be their primary weapon moving forward, and they would need to be prepared. The system then notifies him that his trust level has increased. One of the members of the group, Moon Byung-ho, is particularly moved by Seo-jun's actions. He silently thinks to himself that if they continue to work with Seo-jun, they might actually be able to save his grandmother. The system confirms that Byung-ho's trust has increased greatly, strengthening the bonds within the group. As the group begins to discuss their next steps, the baseball player points out that their hunting speed will be much faster with these new weapons. One of the others adds that with Seo-jun's help, they no longer need to risk their lives retrieving arrows. Seo-jun agrees, but reminds them that they first need to drastically reduce the number of goblins in the area before they can safely move forward. The baseball player acknowledges the importance of this and asks when they should begin hunting the goblins. Seo-jun, without hesitation, replies that they will begin the hunt tomorrow. His tone is firm and resolute, indicating that there is no time to waste. The group is taken aback by the urgency, with one member questioning why they need to start so soon. Seo-jun, with a matter-of-fact attitude, explains that the sooner they act, the better their chances will be. The baseball player, while a little surprised, agrees with the plan. Seo-jun then confidently declares that they will save Byung-ho's grandmother the following day. Byung-ho's face lights up with hope at the prospect of rescuing his grandmother, and the rest of the group is filled with a renewed sense of purpose. However, the baseball player, still unsure of how they will pull off such a daring rescue, asks Seo-jun how exactly they plan to achieve this. With a serious expression, Seo-jun reveals his strategy. He calmly states that they will use a bait strategy to draw out the goblins and reduce their numbers.